These guys survived the David Kahn era of Timberwolves basketball and live to tell about it. It's Flagrant Howls.
A Timberwolves lifestyle podcast, Flagrant Howls. We got our guy, Kyle Theige. We've got the great Michael Grady here, fresh off a trip back from Denver. Kyle, you're great too. I don't want you to think that you're not. Gonna need Kyle to turn that frown upside down, though. You started to get a little dark and depressed there after Game 5 before we hit these microphones. We need you to put a little smile on here, Kyle.
I'll toss it to both of you, but that was what Jokic did last night was one of the 5 best playoff performances I've ever seen. Dane and I went live last night. We did a podcast, and we tried to talk about adjustments, but I don't know. Other than maybe triple teaming him, he just to see a guy drop 40 points when you're trying to make him a shooter, but then also have 13 assists and 0 turnovers. That was as good of a basketball performance as I've seen, and I thought the Wolves actually grinded. But Grady, you were on the scene last night. You were there. What'd you think? What were the vibes like? And do you think this team can come out to still a raucous arena on Thursday night and try to push this thing to 7?
It's wild. Jokic's performance yesterday was certainly up there, and in terms of thinking about what you do to stop him, I mean, I'll start with a joke. I saw somebody tweet out, it went viral. Guys like him are usually ticklish, so Rudy should tickle him. And I'm fully on board with tickling Jokic and just trying anything to slow this man down. But it's really, incredible when you see what he's able to do out there. And he just looks like he's just in a complete zone. And part of the problem is defense doesn't necessarily start when the guy gets the basketball. I mean, there's a lot of action that happens before then, and they're doing so many things to get him in a good position in the low block. And once he catches the ball there, it's you're toast. You're toast. So there's just got to be work to be done to kind of push him out a little bit, where he's still efficient. He's still obviously knock down that big three. He can knock down the jumper. He can still bully his way inside. But you just have to make him work a little bit more for what he's getting. So it was a masterful performance. And the funny thing is, Rudy is, of course, Defensive Player of the Year and deserved it. And you look at his stat line. I mean, he's 7 for 7, 18 points, 11 rebounds, couple of blocks. Like anybody would take that, in a playoff game. But it just speaks to the greatness of Nikola Jokic. So obviously there's a lot of, you're licking your wounds. You're not feeling great, after a game like that. But you just have to remind yourselves, as far as the guys in that locker room, it's just everything that you want. Yeah, is still right there in front of you.
Yeah,
everything you desire, want to achieve is still right there for the taking.
To that point, that's a good segue, because I'd love to just do a quick little exercise. I'm going to ask a question to the three of us. Don't answer it until I count 3, 2, 1. Do you think the Timberwolves can still win this series? I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1 and answer yes or no. It's an exercise. We're all gonna do it at the same time here. Okay. Do you think the Timberwolves can still win this series? 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Dude, it feels like a lot of first of all, this is a roller coaster ride, the NBA playoffs. That it's been 20 years since Wolves fans have been on this ride, but it feels like the doom and gloom feels like it's a little excessive here. Like you're literally in the ring with the best boxer in the world, punching at a level that is the best they've ever punched at. And guess what? Now they come back to Target Center, and you get 2 days to take a step back and maybe review some things. Like the series people are acting like the series is over because of what's happened in the last 3 games. And I get why people feel like it's a little bit daunting right now, but it's not over yet. You play a home game tomorrow night.
I tried to look this up, and maybe one of you kind of being basketball junkies with me can remember. I don't know the last time a series went like away, home team in terms of wins. So I think that's, Phil, kind of affected people's mindsets. If this was just the home team won every game of the first 5 games, you would just be like, all right, cool, back to soda, game 6, just get it to 7. And then in game 7s, as Grady knows, anything can happen, right? Like game 7s are completely, it's like a football game in the playoffs. It's just completely different. It's a one-off, and whoever gets hot in the right moment can win. So I think Jokic's performance last night affected my overall mood. Also, the game tipped off at like damn near midnight on the West Coast, so I don't know how it was for you, Phil, in the Midwest. But give me one more night's sleep. But I do. I think if you just win Game 6 and kind of have the fans behind you, and you get a good Ant game and maybe a better Carl game, and someone like Nah or Jaden can step up, then Game 7 is just 50-50. And you just hope that, you have the best player on the court in 48 minutes and you'll win the game.
This is the ultimate test of mental toughness.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Do you fold or do you fight? You control what you can control, and you battle Jokic as best as you can. You try to make life difficult for him, knowing that he's the MVP and he's going to make buckets. And even if he makes them, you don't hang your head. You get back and you control what you can control. Jamal Murray is going to make difficult shots. You're making life difficult for him. Anthony Edwards was harassing him last night. They're still going to make tough shots. Don't let that affect you mentally in all the other areas that you can impact a game. It just seemed like when Jokic gets it going, or when in Game 4, when Murray is hitting these shots, all of a sudden we're a step slow to 50-50 balls.
Yeah. All
of a sudden we're not boxing out with the same efficiency that we should, or setting screens the same way that we should, or running out for other contests in the same way that we should. All those little things cannot be affected just because the most valuable player in the NBA clearly is going off. So I did like the fight that we saw for most of the game, but once Jokic went nuclear, it was just what can you do? And so offensively, we have to find some sort of rhythm out there, and they're doing a lot to disrupt Anthony Edwards right now, and other guys were able to get good looks, especially in the second half. They just weren't able to knock him down. But you can ride that wave from the home crowd, lock in defensively. You do have to hope that these guys are so special that you do have to hope that they miss some gimmies, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have an inspired effort, then yeah, you can force a Game 7. And then as you just mentioned, Theige, anything can happen in a Game 7. Game 7 is pressure for you, but it's also pressure for them on their home court, where they've already lost twice in this series. So no, I won't say that the series is over, but they're going to have to show a lot of fight, because the Nuggets absolutely smell blood.
Yeah. It does kind of feel like there's been a couple points in LeBron James' career, the early Cavs days, the 07 playoffs, where like Larry Hughes was his sidekick. It was like Larry Hughes and Zydrunas Ilgauskas, and LeBron's just carrying this roster, and he scores 26 consecutive points in that game. It was a Game 5 against the Pistons, if I remember correctly, and then they closed it out in Game 6, where like he just puts a franchise on his back, and then they get to the finals earlier than they probably should have, and the Spurs put him in their place. And then he did it a couple times with those injured Cavs teams against the Warriors. It kind of feels like Anthony Edwards needs to do that. And by the way, he did it in Game 4, and they almost won that game. But can Ant come out, even though they're doubling him in the half court on pretty much every touch and possession, can he still find a way to get around or get through those double teams? Or can the Wolves schematically put the ball in someone else's hands, and then it comes back around to Ant, and he gives you like a 42, 9, and 7 thing, and you just get a couple extra misses? It kind of feels like you need 2 of those in Game 6 and Game 7 from Anthony Edwards. Yeah,
and I thought Grady was onto something too. Obviously, Jokic was awesome last night, and then Gobert was flamed online and flamed by Draymond on TNT. But despite how good Jokic was, like, Rudy was a -2. I know plus-minus is not the be-all, end-all of stats, but to be publicly looked like you got cooked, and to be like, actually, they lost the Gobert minutes, by 2 or whatever. So I thought they opened up some things for him offensively. That was the best offensive game Rudy's had in this series. So they need him to kind of, there's really no reason that he can't just give you another 18 and 12 on 8 of 9 shooting. So if you get that and you get a good Carl game, someone from the bench, man, I don't know if Grady wants this or Phil, but just hasn't been a good playoffs for Nas. Kyle's had his moments. So if they can just get one person tomorrow on the home court back in your own bed to kind of just join the party with Ant, Ant's going to go down literally shooting. Like,
Kyle, this is your Josh Minot moment. Tomorrow, this is your Josh Minot moment tomorrow night.
Dane told me to not text him last night in the second half, and I was like, I think I would just give Leonard Miller a chance. He's like, please, just let it go, man. Let it go.
Lenny, we need you. Season's on the line. Yeah, Grady, what are the levers? Like, what are the levers that they? Well, one lever is pray that Denver plays a little bit less lights out. But like you talk about things you can control. What levers are you looking for the Wolves to pull tomorrow night?
One, I do hope that Mike Conley is able to go.
Oh, good call.
That's his absence was truly missed. With Anthony Edwards bringing it up and facilitating and sharing those responsibilities with Alexander Walker. And knowing that Ant was going to have to play heavy minutes, and now he's doing a little facilitated and having to get off of it because they're continuing to blitz him. So Conley will certainly help in that regard. So if you get Conley in there, you know, Conley's three-point shooting, you know, he's going to get you double figures as your starting point. If Alexander Walker has a strong game off the bench, then that's double digits with your bench. And then just find a way that Naz can look comfortable out there. He's had his good stretches here or there, especially early in this series, but he just has looked uncomfortable at times. And another where it looks like what's happening defensively is affecting what's happening on the offensive side of the ball. So I would agree. The second unit, somebody needs to provide a spark. I don't worry about Ant. You know, I don't worry about what Ant is going to do out there. Even if they're double and triple teaming him, I feel like he's going to think the game through and make the right play. It's just, as you said, Kyle, who's going to join him? Who is going to join him when everything is on the line now? It is a long off season. It is a long off season. You know, we've got if they fall short, you got the rest of May. Then we're into June and watch the NBA Finals and NBA Draft. Then we're in July, and then we're in Summer League and getting a little vacation. Then we're in August, and we're kind of talking about, hey, soon. And then the end of September, but it's not really until the end of September that you get to training camp. That's a long off season, and I don't think these guys want it to start right now. And they'll show that. I want to see them show on Thursday night that they're not ready for this to be a wrap. They're not ready to go to Cancun on 3 or wherever their destination may be.
Gone fishing.
You got to put everything that you have into this ball game, knowing that it's a daunting task. I think the big thing is a lot of folks wrote off Denver because they were losing their mind after game 2. Reggie Jackson was helped off the court at the end of the game. People were talking about how Murray was on one leg and Jokic has a bad hip. And they didn't look great. And those 3 days off, and they hit all the right buttons in terms of looking at themselves in the mirror. And they've shown the championship pedigree these last 3 games. And it has really knocked our guys on their rear end. So we're still waiting on a response from our guys. But you know the task is a daunting one. But we've seen throughout the season that we can that our guys can play with the Denver Nuggets, and we just need to see it again. Just one game, and then we'll see what happens in a game 7.
I think Kyle brought up earlier, like the pattern of the series is why people feel so defeated here, because usually in a the first 5 games of a series, you might lose the home games, then you come back home and you hold serve, and then they win their home game. And now, okay, if you can just hold serve, then anything can happen, but it's been flip-flopped. So I couldn't find any replicas of this pattern, but I did find 2 historical replicas of just like the series going completely sideways in the middle for a team after it starts well, then it goes off the rails. Oh my gosh. And then they recover at the end. So recently, the 2023 Heat Celtics series, where that was an 8-seed Heat team, if I remember right.
Yep.
And the Heat took a 3-0 lead in that series, and then there was the don't let us get one, right? Boston, don't let us get one. Boston wins on the road in Miami in Game 4, a blowout win, and then they win a home game in Game 5, and then Boston forces a Game 7. With a 104-103 win in Miami. So now Miami is like, holy crap, we just gave up a 3-0 lead. Boston has all the momentum. And by the way, Game 7 was in Boston.
Right.
And the Heat blew the doors off the Celtics in Game 7. Just like there's that nothing like that has happened. And then I'll go back even to the 2004 Pistons and the Nets and the Pistons in the semifinals, the Eastern Conference playoffs. So the Pistons won the first 2 games. Those were home games. But then the Nets hold serve. They win the next 2. And then the Nets win on the road in Game 5. So now it's Pistons have a 2-0 lead. The Nets come all the way back to take a 3-2 lead. Oh, my gosh, this is terrible. And the Pistons win on the road in Game 6, and then they win at home in Game 7 to close it out in 7 games. And I'll even add a baseball example. I'm pretty sure for Twins fans out there, the 1987 and 1991 Twins in the World Series, they win the first 2 at home, lose the next 3. Now they're down 3-2 in both instances, and they come back and they win the championship. So, like, series like this happens sometimes where, oh my gosh, one team goes crazy in the middle of a series. It doesn't guarantee that the momentum can't shift again in Game 6 and Game 7. Either that, or I'm just being a raging homer right now for the last half hour.
Well, mix that too. But I will say that we've comped this team in this season to the 03-04 team the last time that they were really, really good. And when the Wolves were in the Western Conference semifinals that season, they were pushed to a Game 7 and ended up winning that Game 7. So that was at home, a little different here, but it was a disappointing weekend, right? We were all there on the scene in Minnesota for Games 3 and 4. I just can't imagine they lose all 3 at home in this series. So to Grady's point, to Phil's point, all you have to do in this series is not worry about how you got to 3-2. It's just win a game. And then I believe, and this isn't a homer take, Phil, that if it's 3-3, the pressure goes back on Denver, right? Because you're still the defending champs. You all of a sudden let the rope slip a little bit. So 48 minutes to prove it in that Game 7 that the Wolves won a couple of years ago, or 20 years ago, I should say. I think KG had 37 and 21. So I'd expect the next franchise player for this team to have a big night tomorrow. And like I said, Ant's not going to go down losing a Game 6 because he has 18 points. He's going to find a way to crack whatever defense they're throwing at him. And if his teammates just can hit a couple of shots and keep things open for him, I think Grady's going to have another flight to Denver this week.
Those first 2 games were impressive, and we had not seen the best of Denver. We've seen the best of Denver now. I can't imagine them playing any better than what we've seen in these last few games. And so Minnesota knows what they're facing and what they have to do in terms of matching that intensity and getting back to basics and doing what they need to do to pull a game out. And considering what's in front of them, given the fact that these first 2 games, as I mentioned before, was real, but a little bit fool's gold in terms of how Denver was playing. I think going into this series, we all felt like this is like a Western Conference Finals matchup. These are the best 2 teams in the Western Conference. They're just happening to meet in the second round. If the Timberwolves were to survive, I think we would pick them. Yeah. It might be homers in us, but would pick them over Oklahoma City with all due respect, even without home court advantage, and certainly with home court advantage over Dallas and Doncic playing on one leg, it seems like, we would pick the Timberwolves over that squad too. Against the Nuggets, it's kind of like, headed into the series, we're like, this is going to be tough. Yeah. So no matter how this ends, you know that you are facing a unbelievable basketball team. This is the most complete squad in the NBA, even with a shortened bench. This starting lineup with Murray and KCP knocking down shots, Gordon playing as strong as he is. Porter hasn't even had a strong series to this point, and Jokic is emerging like an MVP. This is a hell of a challenge, and it was easy to get sucked into these guys are cooked based on how those first 2 games went. Game 1, Timberwolves outlasting them in the end, and then Game 2, just a complete smackdown. What are we watching kind of game without Rudy Gobert there in the mix? And so to see it shift the way that it has is abrupt, but we're kind of, regressing to the mean a little bit in terms of, okay, no, this is the real Denver Nuggets. Now, will the real Minnesota Timberwolves show up?
Yeah, I've just got 2 things before we want to respect your time, Phil. I don't know if you have any big other questions, but one, you announced last week, I think you're going to be calling some New York Liberty games this summer. So we're excited at that. The more Michael Grady, the better. I was sad because it probably means you're going to be in New York, not Minnesota. So probably no more Young Gravy concerts for you and I. But also, too, ran into you on Sunday night, Game 4. Phil, you saw this, right? Grady had slightly better seats than we did.
I did see. Yeah, Grady.
like that.
Yeah, Grady was in Celebrity Row down there. It was what a time to be alive.
What was it? We're gonna ask him too. The inverse. What was it like sitting next to Craig Kilborn for an entire game? What's he like during the game? And is he just giving you a lot of basketball insight throughout all 4 quarters?
Yeah, no, it was great. He's locked in.
I know, right?
No, Kilby's locked in. It was great. The only thing was just it's funny. I got pictures after the after the game, and the photos of us at the beginning of the game smiling and cheesing, and then later in the game where it was just we were not happy. It just really spoke to the night. But no, it was a great experience. Shout out to Charles Swanson and Kilby. It was a great time, and I don't usually get. I mean, we get to sit this close, but I'm usually got the headphones on, and I'm talking to Jim, and so I'm not really getting to feel the crowd or the ambiance and our PA announcer Jedediah and the music and all those types of things that's happening. So it was a full experience that I don't always get, and that was a lot of fun.
I was walking back from like the halftime snack area, just looking for like some trail mix or just anything to eat my feelings at halftime. And I came back and like the whole row was empty, and there's Grady just slumped down in his chair, just like doom scrolling Twitter probably. Just eight points in 21 seconds. How is this possible?
Yeah,
he took that shot like in front of you guys, basically. By the way, Jamal Murray.
It was just a comedy of errors to close that half, and to see that sequence. It was just completely for everybody. You know, it was deflating. So yeah, I think David Sherman caught the shot of me just looking completely just dejected in that moment. Pick, yeah. And we're all the same. We want to see, you know, these guys win. I have to get up and pace sometimes. I couldn't sit in my seat in Denver the entire time. I got to get up. If there's a miscue or whatever, or I see another crazy bucket from Yoke, I got to get up and pace. The stress levels are high, but a big part of it is it's been such an unbelievable ride. Am I right? Like, this has been such a fun season, one of the best in franchise history. It has been such a joy to be a part of it. And like I said before, everything that they want and desire is right there in front of them. And these are character building moments, regardless of how this series unfolds. These are character building moments that will define you on whether or not you're going to evolve into a championship caliber team in the short term or long term, or whether or not you're the type of person who wilts in these moments, you know, when the lights get too bright and when the pressure gets too much for you. And I believe that these guys are going to learn from it, and we'll see if they can learn from it in the short term, in front of their crowd, in front of everybody that they performed so well in front of this season. And I'm excited to see. Like, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild.
Can I add something too just real quick to the Anthony Edwards dialogue and commentary? On one hand, we are really, I think the royal we, not necessarily the three of us on this podcast, but we are really quick to raise someone up, compare him to Michael Jordan, and then when he doesn't live up to our perception of Michael Jordan, then we slam him back down. And so I've heard a lot of, well, Michael Jordan wouldn't have done that, and that, you know, Michael Jordan wouldn't have scored only 18 points or this or that. But what's funny is, the irony is, Michael Jordan in the late 1980s, like, a lot of people either aren't old enough or just are mischaracterizing the first 5 or 6 years of Michael Jordan's career. First round exits, multiple years, and then ran into the Pistons' brick wall 3 straight years, 87, 88, or it was 88, 89, 90, or whatever the order was. And so he ran into this juggernaut in the Eastern Conference 3 straight times, and every time got a little bit closer, but had to learn a new lesson. And then everything broke through in 1991, the first of the 3 championships. And so at worst, I think at best, they can absolutely still win this series.
Yeah.
But at worst, is this level 2 of the Michael Jordan video game from 35 years ago for Anthony Edwards, where, all right, you get kind of gentlemen swept the first time against Denver, then you put up a bigger fight against Denver the second time, maybe the third time's the breakthrough. Or maybe you have to wait 2 more years, because that's how it works sometimes in the NBA.
And I got to give Kendrick Perkins, I don't get to hear all these sound bites. I don't watch all of these shows, but I see little clips here or there. But it sounds like Kendrick Perkins is still giving Minnesota some love and still believing in Anthony Edwards. And I give him a lot of credit for that, because not everybody is strong enough to make a strong pronouncement loud and then when it goes the other way, still stand on it. A lot of people, run with the tail between their legs when it goes the other way. When there is a clear explanation as to why we're seeing a shift in this series. Jokic is gone nuclear. I mean, he's been unreal, and this is a championship caliber squad. So even though they look dead to rights, it doesn't take away from what this young Timberwolves team has done this season, what they did in the first 2 games of this series. It's just shifted, and they have to recover. This is not an indictment on Anthony Edwards and the player that he is. As you just mentioned, it took 7 years before Jordan figured it out and then won a championship. And it was losses to the Celtics. It was losses those last 2 years to the Pistons before he finally broke through. Not just Jordan, but Jordan and his teammates, because Pippen's growth was just as important as Jordan's growth. Other guys on the team hitting big shots was extremely important. So what I see from Ant, and this is where I see, greatness from any player. When I see them putting in the work to add different things to their game, there are so many players in this league that plateau when they get to a certain point. And Ant, even at this young age, is still figuring things out. They're doing this to me. I'm going to add this counter. I'm going to add that counter. I'm going to work this into my game, that into my game, to make you literally unstoppable on the court. And he understands the significance of that because he wants to win. If you don't care about winning, then you're probably not going to add different things to your game. I've seen him do that just in the midst of this season alone. So if we're seeing him learn, grow, watch tape, add different things, learn through trial and error, and we've seen him do that just over the course of this season, imagine what he's going to be doing when he's in year 7, like Mike was when he was winning the championship. Yeah. So you kind of have to continue to add pieces around him that fit that mold, guys who want to get better, guys who want to add pieces to their game. And I believe that they have that. It's just they're getting a hell of a lesson right now, but they're going to learn from it. And the last thing I'll add to that, even before Jordan's Bulls broke through against the Pistons had to break through against the Celtics. For the young folks who want to go on YouTube, the Pistons had the Celtics dead for rights, and this might have been 87. I don't remember the exact year, but they were in the Garden, and the Celtics make a play. Pistons are up. Isaiah Thomas trying to inbound the ball real quickly, throws it in. Larry Bird steals it, dumps it off to Dennis Johnson for a layup.
Steal my bird. Oh, my God. Yeah.
And they win the series. That was devastating for the Pistons, who had yet to win a championship at that point. Bad boys, all the fanfare, all that type of stuff, and they lose again to the Celtics when they had it right there in their hands. Imagine that offseason for Isaiah Thomas. Yeah. I just gave this game and eventually the series away to Larry Bird, but they bounce back and they win multiple.
And you know what? I can't imagine if there was social media and podcasts and YouTube and all of us idiots every day filling time on microphones. But what people want when a game like last night happens, and if the series ends in Denver's favor, people always want a head on a platter or a reason or a scapegoat. And last night it was Rudy, right? We need this outcome happens and Jokic does this and somebody must be held accountable and filleted for it. It can't just be, actually, Rudy played excellent. Not perfect, but Rudy played excellent. Nobody else really would have stepped in. I saw some people saying, well, Anthony Davis gets torched. Everybody gets torched by Jokic. Well, Dwight Howard would have, Dude, no. Sometimes the answer is a superhero is a superhero, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop them. And you just hope that it's a little bit less superhero-y in Game 6, right?
That's a great point. And we've seen this time and time again, especially with teams that I've watched in the past that I mentioned to you guys over and over. Indiana teams that I grew up watching would lose to Michael Jordan, and you go, that's Michael Jordan. They eventually got to the NBA Finals, a loss to the Lakers and Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. And it's like, they got Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. Miami Heat with LeBron. It's just sometimes you just come across a special player, and Anthony Davis thought he should have been Defensive Player of the Year. He really thought he should be Defensive Player of the Year, and he was cooked by Jokic in that series, and he was cooked by Jamal Murray when he had to get out on the perimeter, which he said is what makes him a more valuable defender than guys like Rudy Gobert. So Anthony Davis has been cooked. Like, name a big man who would have been able to stop what we saw from 15 last night.
Luka Garza. That's another lever. Let's pull the lever.
Well, no, I'm telling you, you have to tickle this man. You have to.
That is such good analysis.
I'm
like,
telling
we're gonna laugh, but seriously, tickle him. We'll send you out on this. But one of the things, Phil, despite a disappointing Game 4 loss, that was cool for me, is that I've talked about this a lot, but I grew up just watching this organization and listening to Kevin Harlan call the games. And Grady and Kevin Harlan are sitting 15 feet away from each other on Sunday night. Kind of the Kevin Garnett of my childhood, and now the Anthony Edwards of my current life. But basically, I just want to, like, more of a favor, but when they give you a commemorative jersey 15 years from now to honor you, what number do you want, and can I hand it to you?
I appreciate that. No. Can I say this about Kevin? For whatever reason, obviously when Kevin Harlan comes to town, the local announcers are not broadcasting.
Yeah.
And so very rarely have I been in the same building as Kevin Harlan. And there were a couple of times a season ago, but I didn't have an opportunity to talk to him. But I talked to him, I guess it would have been Game 1 of this series. And everything that I heard about Kevin and what an amazing guy he is, just 1,000% true. He could not have been nicer, could not have been more gracious, pleasant, complimentary. And I just wanted to give him praise and thank him for being someone who blazed a trail for other announcers to be unashamed when it comes to showing enthusiasm on calls. I'm not a fan of those. This is, you just call a straight game. Kevin loses his mind.
Yeah.
And as a fan, I identify with that. I don't watch a spectacular dunk and go, nice play. No, I'm losing my shit. You know what I'm saying? And to hear Kevin have enthusiasm, bottle it up in a catchy phrase. I was in college watching the game between the Houston Rockets and the Dallas Mavericks, and Tracy McGrady for the Rockets drove baseline and dunked on Sean Bradley. And that was the first time that I had heard Kevin say, Tracy McGrady just sucked the gravity out of the building.
Yeah.
And
so good.
And I remember it was a bunch of my buddies. We just ran out of the dorm room and we walked around the hallway, and we were just trying to gather ourselves because the dunk was spectacular. And then for me personally, the call just married it. And so he's one of the guys that sets the blueprint. And I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I've always been a fan of Kevin Harlan. And then meeting him face to face was a great moment for me. And I'll share this with you guys. He was not feeling well ahead of Game 2. And TNT called me and said, we need you in the bullpen. Kevin is not feeling well. He's sleeping it off, taking medicine. And if he's able to go, he'll go. But I just want to make sure that you're in the bullpen. And so I spent all day preparing for Game 2, just in case Kevin wasn't going to be ready to go. And they called me at 6 o'clock, said Kevin's going to give it a go. So, but I talked to him. He was good. Just had allergic reaction to something, but he powered through the game, and nobody
That's
could
crazy.
Tell.
Yeah.
Nobody
was
could
good
tell.
that game. Like, that was obviously a big Wolves game, but he was awesome on the call. So
Yes.
even on Sunday, you talked about it, that Jamal Murray shot, we all had a really good angle for it at half, and it did suck the life out of the arena, took all the energy out of the building. But to see Jamal then turn and Kevin Harlan is yelling at him, that was a cool moment from a basketball perspective. So I'm glad you guys got to connect, and he really is like one of the best. And
he's amazing.
I speak for Phil, and I know a lot of fans, all the fans, that you have seamlessly fit in and made this whole season really, really fun. So wherever it goes, if it extends past Game 6, I know you'll be there. But we appreciate you coming on the pod and all you do for this team, because it's been the most fun I've ever had watching this team play basketball.
Well, I think what we can say is we look forward to previewing the Western Conference Finals with you next week on this podcast, Michael Grady. Let's
do it. Let's do it. Take back control of this series. And I think Thursday will be a lot of fun, and the fans have been amazing all season long, and I expect nothing less coming up. in Game 6.
Amen. There he is,
Thank you,
Michael
sir.
Grady, folks. Great stuff, dude. Rest up, go take a nap, and we'll talk to you soon, man. All right.
See you guys.
All right, Kyle, let's keep it here and bring producer Ross into the mix, because my producer Ross sources are telling me that he has a random wolf of the week prepared as we wrap this episode.
Hey,
Yeah.
that was therapeutic, by the way. Like,
That
I
was
needed that.
that
That's
was
all
one
I
of the.
needed.
I think that was we've had a lot of really fun episodes of Flagrant Howls since we started this thing like almost 2 years ago. That right there is one of my 2 or 3 favorite episodes we've ever done. I think we all just needed Michael Grady's soul in our lives here today.
Yeah.
After what's happened the last week or so.
We just gotta get Grady on Cameo, maybe. Ross, can we set that up? Just where like you're feeling bad, or just pay Grady to say some nice words and you feel
Bring
better.
some historical context into your life, you know.
You need to plant that idea to him, Kyle, and then you now should get like 20% of his profits.
Done. I'm gonna text them. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I set you up on Cameo. We got a dozen
log in.
ordered, and it's $100 per.
I did
finish everyone with cash.
I did love the historical perspective that I think we all know, but sometimes need to hear. And you guys have talked about this on this podcast and other podcasts that you're a part of. Generally, there's a progression to being a champion.
Mm-hmm.
For some teams, it's quicker than others. But even for Michael Jordan, and again, those Detroit Pistons teams, it took a little bit of time. So if for some reason the Wolves don't win the next 2 games, you just kind of have to believe that with a player like Anthony Edwards, it's a part of the process, and this isn't the last crack the Minnesota Timberwolves are ever going to get at being a championship team.
See, a lot of people don't want to hear. A lot of people don't want to hear that, right? And it's crazy. Like I agree with everything Ross just said, but there is a thirst for blood if they because it's. I think people are like throwing the context out the window of the opponent you're playing and the player that is leading the opponent that you're playing. And they're just saying, well, if you blow a 2-0 lead, then, right, it's this black mark on Minnesota sports. It's this travesty. I mean, that's where Game 2 kind of threw the whole algorithm off. Like, if Game 2 hadn't happened the way that it did, and Denver doesn't respond the way that they do, if, like you say, if the flow of the series is a little bit different, and you're just in a Game 6, this would have been house money, baby. Wow, made it to a Game 6, chance to force a Game 7, but it's the way that Game 2 happened that has thrown the whole thing off.
And I think if they would have eventually, if it does happen that they blow a 2-0 lead, if they would have done that against any team right now in the playoffs outside of Denver, it would have just been a completely different conversation.
Agreed.
Because even Boston,
totally agree.
Boston games now where that's just Boston is not on the level. I know they're cruising to the East, but that's like, I don't know, that's candy cane lane compared to what the West has been. Just if they would have done it against any other team, Dallas, OKC even, it would have been a bigger conversation about just kind of choking. Denver, man, I mean, last night, what they did on Game 3 and then what Jokic did last night, those are some of the best basketball performances ever. And that's from a defending champ that I think has woken up. So whether or not they sleptwalk through the Lakers series or the first 2 games, that is still the best team in the world. And the Wolves have an opportunity, like Grady said and like we all said, just win Game 6. You don't have to really focus on any other part of your life. Just you win tomorrow, and that makes, what is it, Saturday or Sunday? That makes it
Sunday, right?
A lot of pressure on both sides, but a one-game thing, anything can happen. So just like random wolf of the week. One random wolf of the week, anything can happen.
By the way, hold on a second. By the way, you
Ross
know what
is in a call center right now, just taking calls.
Dude, you know what Sunday is? Do you know what Sunday is? Sunday is the game, right? It's Game 7 would be Sunday, right? I just want to double check this.
Is it the anniversary of the
It is. Game 7 will be Sunday.
Is it the anniversary of the Kings Wolves?
It may actually be. I'm not 100% sure. It is Kevin Garnett's 48th birthday on Sunday.
Oh my God. For real?
Let's throw a party.
Wait, hold on.
Party.
I only know that because my birthday is May 20th, and KG's birthday is May 19th, and obviously 2 Minnesota icons.
Hold on. So
his birthday is Sunday. KG.
Little report. So Sunday, May 19th would be hypothetically Game 7 Wolves Nuggets. It is also, as my co-host has pointed out, Kevin Garnett's birthday. It is also, to Ross's point, the 20-year anniversary of Game 7 Wolves Kings.
Dude. Wait, that's the wrong sounder. Oh, sorry. That's right.
Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Wait, so
May
KG did that on his birthday, huh? He did the 30 and 20 thing.
32 and 21 in Game 7, May 19th, 2004.
Wow, dude. Wow.
I got to go back and watch that. That's crazy.
You're right, man. It was his freaking birthday. 32-21, 4 steals, 5 blocks, 12 of 23 from the field, jumping up on the scores table.
What if I told you in my best ESPN, I think all the stars are aligning?
Dude, it's interesting. Okay, now watch them get their doors blown off by 27 tomorrow night. And, well, that was a fun thought. So, all right. Okay, Kevin Garnett. I see you out there in the universe. I see you. You're not showing up to any games yet. I don't know if he'll show up tomorrow night.
Ball Arena for Game 7 though.
On his birthday.
He's clearly working behind the scenes. He's going to be back at some point. We got to get this ownership thing settled here relatively soon. But May 19th is now a national holiday in my household.
It could be. It could be if they pull this off. All right, Ross has a random wolf of the week for us here. I'm going to explain how this works. It's been a few weeks since we've done this, which is probably good for me. Hopefully this is like the gap between games 2 and 3 for the Nuggets, because I have lost 5 consecutive random wolves of the week. Kyle has a 14-6 all-time lead. Ross throws out a bunch of clues. Each one of us gets up to 3 incorrect guesses, plus a heat check guess after the first clue. If one of us hits a third strike, the other person wins automatically. Are we? No Googling, no cheating. Are we ready?
No Google. Use your noodle, as my trivia friends like to say. All right, Phil. The first clue is specifically for you, and don't forget, gentlemen, you get a heat check. Okay?
Well, I was just going to say Kevin Garnett while we're on the topic.
We're going to count that if it's right.
Yeah.
Is that your heat check guess?
Yeah, that's my heat check.
Ross?
That is incorrect.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. That's a good guess.
Your first clue for those who are well versed in Random Wolf of the Week. This Random Wolf of the Week is not Will Avery.
Oh, wow. Oh, so now I don't even get to use my heat check guess for the heat check. I don't even know what to guess now. This is terrible. Okay, let me throw a heat check out. Doug West.
It is not Doug West, an all-time great Timberwolf, though.
Damn.
All right, here we go, really getting into it. This Random Wolf of the Week, gentlemen, is an NBA champion.
Okay. By the way, Kyle, I spent some time last week reconfiguring my all-time top 100 Timberwolves list.
Oh,
so
really?
we have to do that at some point here,
Done.
whenever it makes sense. Once the.
I was going to say too, just I don't know why, Random Wolf of the Week champion, but I'm late to this party. But Phil and Ross, did you see what the Knicks are doing for their home games? They basically carve out like a section of a baseline group of seats, and they just get a ton of former Knicks.
Yeah.
To be there, so it's Stephon Marbury, Patrick Ewing. They get all these guys.
John
in there,
Starks, yeah.
And it's like essentially like the AAU dad section where they're all just like losing their minds. I'll talk to ownership, but that should be something the Wolves do. Just carve out a little section and bring back any player. Now, it's probably not going to be as star-studded as what the Knicks are doing, but listen, man. I don't even know if Wally and KG get along still, but get those guys in, get Trenton Hassel. Get Troy
Rubio,
Hudson,
Alexi Shved, change your, hey, Wolves, change your face, okay? Change your face,
run
Timberwolves.
security, let's have a section of AAU Timberwolves dads cheering on the young guys.
Your roster might not be as deep to pull from as the New York Knicks, but you can still have a lot of fun with who you pull and put in those seats. Cherokee
it's all
Parks,
random
Dean
Wolves of the
Garrett.
week.
It is. In fact, we have 20 candidates. It's Antoine Walker, JJ Barea, Jalen Noel, Dante Cunningham.
I could see today's when we get there. I could see today's utilizing one of those seats. Clue number 3, the Random Wolf of the Week. This Random Wolf of the Week was an Australian League All-Star in 1999. Not Shane Heal. He's already been.
So it's not Will Avery. It's not Shane Heal. Okay.
Awesome. This Random Wolf of the Week, gentlemen, count them, played for 11 different NBA franchises.
Wow.
That is one way to win a ring. If you just play for a third of the league, you might luck into one.
Wow.
Except for the Timberwolves.
This year maybe, this Random Wolf of the Week wore 5 different jersey numbers while in the NBA.
I'm so bad at jersey numbers.
Ross, what year did he win Australia MVP?
1999 Australian League All-Star.
Oh, Australian League All-Star. Okay, cool, cool.
1999. This random Wolf of the Week wore number 13 for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Number 13. Maybe you'll remember some number 13s.
The Australian League thing is throwing me off because it's a weird, like for a guy that played for 11 teams, won a championship, if you're going to play in a secondary league and you're not Shane Heal, wouldn't you play in a higher level league? All due respect to Shane Heal.
You better be careful. We want to get him back at some point. This random Wolf of the Week stood/stands 6 feet 2 inches tall.
Oh, man, because I'm not going to lie, clue number 3, I was ready to yell out Luke Longley because it kind of fit, but it's not him at 6'2". But I also think he might have worn 13. So now Ross has got me in a blender.
But he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be Australian to have played in the Australian League, right? I mean, it's.
Oh, sure. Okay, that's also fair. Yep. Good point. Good point.
He does not have to be. I like what you're thinking there, Phil. Here we go. Your next clue. This random Wolf of the Week averaged 9.9 points per game during his NBA career.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, so not a bad player. This random Wolf of the Week attended college at mighty Duquesne.
Duquesne was in the tournament this year, weren't they?
I think they just were.
Oh, I'm stumped.
Maybe a 15 seed?
I think it was like 11.
I think they're in the A10, right?
I would say, where are they?
I think their conference is too big for them to be a 15 seed.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think they're A10, so you're probably right. Couldn't have been a 15. This random Wolf of the Week began his career with the NBA Heat. The NBA Heat. This random
Is that like a curveball clue or
Yeah, what?
the Miami Heat, or is that what you mean? Or is this are you trying to throw us for a loop here?
What did I say?
That's what he said, right?
Well, you said the NBA Heat.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
The Miami Heat.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if you were trying to pull a fast one with like a G League team or like the NBA, the Ignite or something. I would just check. I'm just checking.
No, good catch.
Heat.
Good catch. Sorry, I'm double checking
just
one
checking.
of my future clues, so I was a little distracted there. My apologies. It should have said the NBA's Miami Heat.
Okay.
This random Wolf of the Week won an NBA championship with Detroit basketball.
Oh.
Detroit basketball. This random Wolf of the Week signed a 4-year, $23.5 million contract in July of 2006 with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Is it Marko Jaric?
It is
He
not
wasn't.
Marko Jaric.
No, he wasn't on the.
I had that name written down, though. Good shot.
This
Because he was he signed it. Well, he was traded.
What do you want?
This random Wolf of the Week, however, played in just 82 games for the Minnesota Timberwolves. 4-year deal.
Mike James.
82 games. Mike James? Is that what you said?
It's wrong, clearly. Yeah. Yes.
That's
Mike
correct.
James. Mike. Oh, no,
no
Mike
way.
James. What? Tell me what I do bad. Tell me what I do bad. Mike James.
Who? Oh, that's Mike Jones.
Two clues down, Phil. I think you both would have got this. I just have to get this in. It's nice to name drop every now and then. I actually called downstairs to Doogie to cross-reference one of these. So I picked up the phone here at Hubbard, called down to Doogie, and I said, Doogie, I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. And Doogie verified. So this random Wolf of the Week once told at the time KFAN's Chad Hartman.
I was interning for this show when this happened.
That he was like a, quote, prostitute, end quote. And I think, Phil, you might remember the rest of the quote was something along the lines of, and this is what we struggled with. Doogie didn't have the quote specifically. But the rest of the quote had something to do with, you really don't want me, but at the end of the day, you'll settle for me.
Yeah.
It was something along those lines.
So he was asked, I don't remember what the exact question was, but it was like, you seem to have a really high opinion of yourself for a guy that's bounced around a million different teams. And he goes, tell me what I do bad. Tell me what I do bad. I shoot, I pass, I can defend. Tell me what I do bad.
That
Chad Hartman's like,
year,
well, I mean, you're
on your 7th team in 8 years.
Yeah.
That same year, Phil, I was sent down to Timberwolves Media Day to get liners and such. And you just go around, you get them all to read stuff. And Mike James looks at the liner, kind of crumples it up in his hand, and instead of reading the liner, just looks right at me and records into the microphone, "I'm Mike James!" Expletive. And walks away. And I'm like, I don't think we could use the Rick James, Mike James quote.
I just typed in Mike James prostitute into my work computer.
Oh, no.
And got a message. So it's been a pleasure.
No.
But that might be it for me. If anyone's looking for a full-time financial analyst, I am available on LinkedIn. That's a good one. I don't know how I would have got that. Although now that I looked it up, Ross, the NBA champion thing, because it's just a never-ending 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, that was the 03-04 Pistons. So
yes, it was.
03-04, we can't get away from it, and I look forward to the Timberwolves winning a basketball game tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll do another pod this week, and then we will all celebrate Game 7, Kevin Garnett's birthday on Sunday.
Looking forward to it.
Look at my mood now.
Yeah, you're so happy. Grady got you in a better mood. Detroit basketball guy's no longer there, right? He doesn't do that anymore.
I don't think so, but he was as good as it gets.
Yeah, that was great.
Chauncey, Billups.
Yeah.
Like he had all these little. That guy was incredible. So, all right, that's a wrap on Flagrant Howls
Thanks,
here.
fellas.
Michael Grady, awesome stuff. We're hoping to track down Jim Pete before the week is over here for Kyle. That's Ross, our extraordinary producer here. And hey, I'm off the schneid after like 2 months having gotten whooped by Kyle Theige and random wolf of the week.
And it wasn't Will Avery. And it wasn't Will Avery.
But someday it will be. Someday it will
Mike James.
be. Tell me what I do.